It's Grudge Match Day, and if you love speakers and tone chasing, this one's for you. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Jam Shed and this episode of Grudge Match. And for those of you that are new here, I want to say welcome. And if you're asking yourself what exactly is a grudge match, simply put, it's just a tone chase. It's the thoughts that come into my brain as alongside of the stuff that comes into the Jam Shed, and I bring it here to you so that we can explore, be curious, and have a little fun. So if you're up for that, stick around. Now, let's talk about exactly what we're shooting out today, and I'm excited. I recently bought a Hempback. I've never had one. I have really kept it in the box for, well, until today. And so it was fun to have an unboxing and get it set up inside of the rig. Let's take a look at that right now. So here's a little cascading shot. You can see that I've got the Hempback in the top speaker cabinet, and I've got my 1995 Vintage 30 in the lower cabinet, and they're both being housed by an SM57, or being captured by an SM57 is the better way to say that. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna take a listen to these two speakers, and we'll have a jam, and we'll hear how they sound in a mix together, independent, and I'll also provide just the guitar tracks on their own, which I'm excited. So let's clip right now and take a look at the rig, because I also am doing something a little different. Normally, I would be using my triple rectifier on the clean channel, but today I wanted all the gain. So we are on the red channel. Why? Because that's what you associate. If you're doing heavy tones, you have that 5150 sound or that rectifier sound in your mind. And while the clean channel does a great job with that, I thought it'd be fun to take a couple of pedals, the Super Overdrive and the Ibanez TS-9, and put them in the mix, just to hear if we hear any tightening difference, as you would most of the time need to do if you're hearing it in the room and sometimes in a recording situation. This triple rectifier is interesting in the fact that it really does not have that same normal low end, the big bottom low end that most of the rectifiers are associated with for whatever reason. And I have three of them back here. Two of them have that, but the triple rectifier does not. So it'll be interesting to see which one of these pedals comes out on top when we're going back and forth as far as the testing goes. Now, I've described a lot here, so let's talk about the flow of how things are gonna go, because this is a little different than the way I've done it in the past, and I'm excited for this. So the first thing we need to do is we're gonna talk about the speakers in general. So I'm gonna bring up the tail of the tape. So let's take a look at that and compare these two speakers. As you see here, you've got the Hempback on the left, and you can see its specs, it's 50 watts. Today we're running 16 ohm for both of these. Both have the ceramic magnet. The Hempback has 99 dB sensitivity, where the Vintage 30 is 100. It's not a huge difference. Obviously, their cones are wildly different because you have the fiber cone versus the paper cone. Voice coils are essentially the same, and their difference on the low end a little bit, but I don't know that we're going to hear much of that difference between the two of them. And how they're described from Celestion: smooth, rounded, organic for your Hempback, and then the Vintage 30 is forward, aggressive, cutting, and I'm sure we can all agree about that. So there's our tail of the tape for the speakers, which sets up this tone test a little bit further. And as I said on the bench, the way we're going to do this is I will utilize these pedals, but first we will hear the speakers on their own independently, and that's just with the red channel of the triple rectifier. Then I'll come back, give my general thoughts on what I'm hearing, and then the next test will be I'll use the Super Overdrive and the TS-9 to hear how they sound, or how that impacts their sound, if it does at all. And then I'll pick one and I'll stick with it because I want to get that extra bit of punch, more modern sound out of the triple rectifier. And we'll do that comparison, and then I'll come back. I'll come back, give some thoughts on that, and then we'll hear it in the jam in the context of the mix, and we'll land the plane with final thoughts, and we'll close this one out. So give me just a moment. I'm gonna come back with a guitar, get set up, and we'll be ready to rock and roll. Let's get to it. As always, the axe of choice for our testing purposes today is my 2006 Dean Evo. It has a Gibson Burstbucker 3 loaded here in the bridge position, which is exactly where we'll stay for our testing purposes today. Let's just do a quick rundown of the rig, even though we've already talked about it a little bit. We've got my triple rectifier set to the red channel. Why? Because we want all the gain that we can get. That's running directly to the speakers. They are being captured by SM57s. There's no additional processing on this. And so let's move to now how we're gonna do this thing and hear the test and all the rest of it. The first part, as I said before, is just going to be the speakers. We're gonna start with the Vintage 30. I'll flip right to the Hempback. I'll come back and give you my thoughts. Let's take a listen. Here we go right now. So there you have it. I mean, what else can you say? It's very interesting when you first hear a Vintage 30 and you're like, yep, that's the sound. And then you switch to something that's wildly different, like the Hempback. Now, all of you are probably saying the same thing. Wow, the clarity that you get out of the Hempback is very interesting. The upper range is really present. I mean, it just feels like a huge presence bump on the top end between whatever 1 to 3 or 4K. However, some of you have great ears and you'll be able to tell me exactly what that frequency was, but that top end really starts to come to life. It's not fizzy, but you get the sizzle, and often that sizzle can be super helpful, especially when you're double tracking, to get a wide array of a tonal palette. So you might be missing something on the low end. So I'm having a feeling right now that when we hear these two paired together in a mix, it's going to be really cool. Now, the next part of this little shootout was I'm going to introduce the super overdrive into the chain, and then I'll undo that, and then I'll jump right to the TS-9. So we'll get to hear them back and forth, and I'll do it with both speakers. So I'll start with the Vintage 30, SD1, and TS-9, and then I'll jump to then the Hempback, and it'll be the SD1 and TS-9. So let's do that. Switching back to the Vintage 30 right now. We're going live. Let's do it. Holy cow, what an amazing set of tones that we just unlocked, and I really need a second here to unpack everything I heard. So first off, there's something comfortable about a Vintage 30 with an SD1, but then you jump to my favorite pedal, and this is preference here because I love the TS-9 with a V30. It's like my favorite with the triple rectifier. It's just like comfort food for the soul. And you could probably see that in my facial expression. I'm just blown away by how it sounds. So moving from that, I said I was going to pick one, and I think I'm going to stick with the TS-9. I know. You all knew that was coming. I'm going to stick with the TS-9 for this next part, which is, again, hearing them back and forth. And then what I'll do is I'll put them both together so you can hear them together with the TS-9. Actually, that will be the test. So I'll go back and forth. I'm gonna have to do some hoop jumping here with my hands, so bear with me as I go through this. But I'll go back and forth with the TS-9 one more time, and then I will blend the two speakers so you can hear it, okay? So let's do that. Let's take a listen. Wow. Okay. So I went ahead and put the SD1 in there because I thought it'd be fun to hear what it sounded like. But I will say right from Jump Street, the TS-9 was the better of the two for the Shootout. So that lands the plane on this. The only thing we have left to do now is hear this within the context of the jam. And let's do that. Here it is. Well, there you have it. Let me give you my final thoughts. Both speakers, amazing. I love the smooth top end. It really began to shine for me, especially when you hear the isolated guitars. You really hear the smooth top end of the Hempback, and it's pretty cool. And when you put them together, it just seems like there's something magical about pairing any speaker with a Vintage 30 that happens, whether it's a little more top end, a little more mid-range, and you just get this unique palette. So the Hempback versus the Vintage 30, yeah, there's no clear winner. There's just awesomeness to go around. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you again to all of you who've subscribed. We're, I think, at 102 subscribers, so we finally broke the 100 subscriber threshold, which has been super cool. Also, additionally, I've been experimenting with shorts, so if you've not checked out this little thing, that idea that I had, and I was experimenting with some comedy and having a little fun, it's called Being the Band. Check out that short. You might get a good chuckle out of it, especially if you've played in a band before, and it's my reflection on should I do that again, and who knows, maybe there'll be something like that. But I enjoy being the band, so that's the other part of it, is I am being the band, so I'm really just arguing with myself in these videos. Quite hilarious. Anyhow, all of that to be said, thank you to all of you who have subscribed, and for those of you who have not, please like, share, and subscribe. It really does help out the channel. It helps this thing to grow, and it helps the content to keep coming your direction. So with all of that being said, thank you, and I will see you on the next one. Take care, everybody.